Hey guys, and welcome back to my page. I'm going to be showing you a few of my favorite stretches that I do a couple times a day for my hip flexors and my glutes. So tight hip flexors are really common, and especially tight glutes. And so when I'm talking about hip flexors and glutes, this is the area that I mean. So we have the glute and the hip flexors are all connecting in here. So this is the area that we're going to want to be focusing on releasing during our stretches and opening while we're squatting. I'm also going to be showing you guys what I used to do with every single one of my clients to find out what their squat level is like and how you can perfect your squat and basically get that perfect squat every single time. Now, one of the main reasons why a lot of us have tight glutes or tight hip flexors is because we're sitting a lot and we're not getting the movement that we should be in that region of the body. So if you're a student and you're sitting at a desk all day or you're working a desk job, you're a lot more likely to have tight hip flexors and not have that flexibility that you may be wanting for things like being in the gym or even getting out of your chair or getting out of the car. Loosening those hip flexors and increasing the mobility is going to make your day-to-day things so much easier. I'm linking these two topics together because to have a good squat, you need to have good hip mobility and basically good glute flexibility. Having good hip mobility is going to be really the biggest factor on how low you can get in your squat and how wide your hips can get. Before we get into the squat, let's get into my favorite stretches that I do. First, we are going to start off by feeling how tight our hip flexors and our glutes really are. Like I've said, this is a really common area of the body to be tight, so don't be alarmed if this hurts a little bit. So here we're going to take our thumb and push it into that soft spot into the side glute, so the adductor muscle. We want to press and hold for 45 seconds on each side to really connect with that muscle so you can feel how tight you really are. Before I get into any deep stretches, I always do a little full body muscle release. So this is just this basic downward dog that's in most yoga classes. So this is really stretching and releasing almost every single muscle in the body. I would recommend to do at least 5 to 10 reps before we get into the stretches. Alternate each legs, pushing further into your hip flexor and your glute. The key here is to be having your foot on the outside of your hand or the outside of the mat. If you find this is too much of a stretch though, you can be putting your foot on the inside of your hands in between. By doing the stretches that we're going to be doing in this video, you are really going to be opening up your hip flexors as much as you possibly can and stretching all three parts of the glutes. We're trying to create space and open up more space in the lower body area, so that when you're doing exercises like squats, lunges, deadlifts, or any other exercises that really require lower body to be engaged and moving, you're going to have better range of motion, so basically being able to perform all of your exercises better and more comfortably. So we're going to be dropping down onto the forearms and holding for 45 seconds. Take a few really deep breaths here to engage your core, and make sure that your knee is being pushed away from the body, not in towards the body, because this is going to create the opposite effect that we want to happen. Our next stretch we're going to be doing is really simple and really good for opening up the hips and helping you get that deeper range of motion. So keeping your legs as wide as you possibly can with your feet directly behind you, you're going to feel immediately the stretch that you get in your glutes and in your hip flexors here. Same thing as all of the other stretches we've been doing. We're going to hold for 45 seconds. And if you can, release your upper body down to the ground. Keep your shoulders away from your neck. Brace your core and take a few really deep breaths here. Slowly come back up so you're not shocking the muscles out of that deep stretch position. And just another quick muscle release here, the downward dog. 5 to 10 reps before we get into our further stretches. So now we're going to be going into the pigeon stretch. So here it's basically really important to make sure that your hips are going to be square and you can feel that stretch in the glute. Your front leg, you want to have it straight directly in front of you without having it too close towards the body. The further you can kind of straighten your leg out, the more of a stretch you're going to get. But like I've said, I'm very flexible, so I am able to get pretty deep into this stretch. And we're going to be holding for 45 seconds and repeating on the other leg. If you can't come down to this low of a movement, stay with your chest upright. Now this is really advanced here, so you guys do not need to do this, but eventually you will be able to get your way into this type of stretch. And at the end of those kind of single leg stretches, I'll usually like to get into a deep sumo squat stretch here. So making sure your knees are going outwards and keeping your hips nice and wide, having your elbows resting on your knees. Sink your hips as wide as you can, and we're going to hold for 45 seconds. And here we just want to make sure, again, like we're keeping our knees very wide. We're not dropping the hips too low. We're not tucking that tailbone. That's not going to get the right glute stretch we're looking for. So keep your glutes elevated and engaged. And I'm just going to show you guys what it should look like from the back. So both of your legs should be even, getting that even hip distribution happening with the stretch. I'm going to be showing you my kind of little routine that I would do with my clients before I would even get to know them really. I want to see what their level was at, and I encourage you all to be doing this at home as well. You could also be doing this in the gym with maybe a bench or some risers underneath you, but for now I don't really have anything like that, and I know a lot of people don't maybe have access to that either, so I'm going to show you how you can be doing it just by yourself, but it is going to be necessary to be watching yourself in a mirror to see when you get that final hip wink, when your hips want to start caving in, and we don't want that. We want your hips staying nice and level and mobile that entire time. So again, guys, just a quick little recap. This is the hip flexor area that we are wanting to open up and stretch. Now, something that is really common with most people starting to exercise is a squat like this. And it may not be to this extent, but basically when the hips are caving under, this is called the hip wink. So basically what's happening here is your hip flexors could be way too tight, so it's causing either your hamstrings or your back for those muscles to be tight as well, and basically be compensating for your form to be going out of whack. This could also happen as leaning forward and having your heels elevated while you're squatting. Now what we're going to fix is how we can have your hips loose and flexible so that you are able to sit back and straight down in your squats. Standing against a mirror is always a good idea so you can see what your form level is like. Slowly watch yourself come down in the mirror, and you want to stop yourself at the point where your hips are completely aligned and your glutes are elevated and engaged without tucking under. You can also try this by sitting on a bench behind you or having a friend hold their hand out so you can get that perfect level every time. I already worked up a little sweat just doing this stretching routine, so you guys need to do it. I'd recommend to incorporate these stretches at least once or twice a day. I always find before bed is always a really good idea just to really loosen up your hip flexors. There will be details below about the stretches I did and about the squat. I will also post a couple links to a few blog posts that I have that will be helpful, relatable to these topics. I'm wearing this really cute new sports bra by Do You Even. It's a nice little crop like this, really, really nice. I do have a discount code provided for you guys, so it's Emma10, all capitalized. The link is below and you can check out some of the items they have. It's all new seamless collection, so it's very comfortable for the gym. Thank you guys for watching and have a great day.